I don't want to take someone else's,
Just do
but
it.
it's
Just
Lord
do
of the
it.
Rings.
Oh, fuck. It's fine. That's fine.
Nerd On.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome. I'm Josh, one of your hosts. If you're new to the show, going to my left.
I am Caitlin.
Ollie.
Giggles.
What?
Hi, Giggles.
Giggles.
My name is Tom, and Giggles is also known as Corey. On the interwebs connected with us, we have...
I'm Jared.
And I'm BJ.
Sorry.
Yay!
Didn't really give him much of an intro there, Tom.
Did you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
It was-
We've done this before, guys.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
And
I can't stop laughing.
We can podcast for sure.
do we need a giggles break?
No, I'm all right.
No, it's better with
I'm
him
doing it
laughing.
now. Look. I'm podcasting.
before we get the episode started, Josh got a quick little message to do a little business, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the quick little business, as Tom likes to call it. This episode is brought to you in part by our patrons over at Patreon. And today we have a fun episode. We are going over the World Wide Web with Life's a Binge, Jared and BJ.
Woo!
Say
Yeah.
hello to our audience.
Hello, audience.
Hi, everybody.
And let's start off right. And you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you do.
We are Life's a Binge. We're a podcast as well, pop culture, TV, movies, all that good stuff.
Coming up on 3 years now that we've been doing
Oh,
it.
nice.
A long,
Yeah.
long time.
It is kind of a long time, but it's been a blast. We've been having a lot of fun doing it. Kind of evolving, I think, a little bit.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
It's so fun. We're having so much fun. And having you guys on a few weeks ago was a total blast. Thoroughly enjoyed
That
it.
was one of my favorite ones we've recorded with another group.
Right on. That's cool.
And just so our audience knows, I mean, we appear, you guys appeared, but we've done stuff before, but just so our audience knows, where does the name come from, Life's a Binge?
That was my brainchild. This is BJ, by the way. BJ of BJ and Jared of Life's a Binge.
So together they're BJJ.
And
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
we'd started doing our podcast before we got the name.
Correct.
And so we'd recorded a couple, and then we were like, we need a good name. And it was almost like a cartoon moment of the lightning flashing. Yes, I got it. Life's a Binge, and I had to call everybody. And yes, exactly, and call everybody. This is the one. It's called Life's a Binge.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of people initially associated us with like eating disorders.
yes, exactly.
Oh.
When we were first I don't think binge watching
It hadn't caught on quite yet.
Yeah.
Netflix
Which
and
is
chill haven't
kind of
started yet? Okay.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, the whole binge watching thing and Netflix and our logo's based on Netflix and all that kind of stuff. And it started, we had a conversation on BJ's birthday. Like we were all sitting around the campfire basically talking about the show Lost. And we're like, how come we're not recording this right now? People would listen to this. And then it started probably a couple months after that.
Nice.
And it was also one of those things where we're hanging out, like we're not being paid, we're hanging out to have fun. And we're talking about TV and stuff that we really enjoy, and going back and forth about our opinions, and it's interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's what we all do, so
That's
it's
why we
fun.
make stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish this was fun, but we do it for work.
It would be more fun if you weren't
Wow,
here.
Corey.
Do I need to make the handcuffs tighter?
Yes.
Don't forget the fluffy ones.
Yeah, well,
Well, awesome. And so you guys have been going for 3 years. How many episodes are you on?
We just released, as of this recording, we had hit 151.
Whoa.
Whoa. And so
I know.
All those Pokemon.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
catch them
First
all.
gen.
Gotta catch them all.
I binge that.
yeah.
I don't have any more questions.
Because
Yeah, all right.
I've known
you know them
Jared
so well.
I've known Jared
Well, you
for
know,
How about you guys
that?
Yeah, why
discuss
don't
your
you guys
relationship?
discuss-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you guys had known each other, and so when we were doing
Must
the
be
first podcast, I was kind of it's a beautiful place. I was kind of intrigued. I wanted to hear, oh, tell me about the shows you did. You know, like you guys were in shows. I was like, that was cool. I want to hear about that.
Well, basically,
about
what it gets down to is that you guys are all the fourth wheels right now.
Yes.
it's oh,
On
yeah.
this
Just me and
mandate.
Joshy Josh. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
No, me and Jared met back in
blocking.
like 2004. It was 2004 because that's when I started going to Grossmont College, which is a community college down in San Diego. And
Shout out.
the Griffins. Yeah.
Go Griffins.
My theater was my focus there, and with a kind of a asterisk musical theater. That's what I always told people that's what I went to college for, even though that's not what I was getting my major in. Because I loved musical
He wanted
theater.
to sound cool.
Right? Because musical theater is so
hipster.
cool. But yeah, I met Jared in a few of the acting classes and then musical theater classes. And then we went on to be in a bunch of shows.
A few shows, yeah. A few shows.
Like short films, stuff like that. And still know the guy.
Now you guys are on a podcast together. Once friends, now mortal enemies.
Yeah, right. This finally ends. I will destroy
One shall stand, one shall fall.
That's awesome, though. I like that.
Yeah.
Thunderdome for podcasts.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited about today's topic. This is a really unique kind of situation.
Before we get into
Yes.
it, just one more for the audience, just
Yeah.
so they get a little bit more of you guys. Since
Yeah.
there's that, collaborate team, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
What would you say right now in the current 2018 is probably the best binge thing that you guys have done so far?
As far
Other
as
than
what we've
food,
watched
other than
and
Pizza. I'd have to go with pizza.
Okay.
right?
Like as far as like things that have
of
come
2000 of 2018 of this year, like so recent stuff, or
No, I mean just what
or-
you've done recently.
or in general.
In general.
So most recently, the thing that I think a lot of people binge watch, because binge watching has kind of gone the wayside, where people are still, there's so much content that you can't just plow through it all at once. You kind of pick and choose, and you watch episodically by choice now, which is kind of bizarre.
And then they
Yeah.
just
But-
play The Office over again.
Right. Exactly.
You're not wrong.
But when Cobra Kai came out on YouTube Red, everyone signed up for the free trial so they could watch Cobra Kai on YouTube. And we're like, yeah, we got to do that too.
Okay.
And I'm like, they're not making any money off this because everyone's signing up for the free trial so they can watch the show. It's just bizarre. It was a bizarre business model to me, the whole YouTube thing. But I think that was the most recent thing that everyone collectively kind of binge watched
and that
together.
that was really fun to binge too.
Yeah.
Like we've kind of gone back and forth. My brother wasn't a big fan of it, but we were, and our good friend Jay Huerto was, and it was just a lot of fun. Like that was a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys saw that one or not. What you thought of it?
Fernando?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fernando.
It's all
Yes.
coming together.
Yes, it is. It's a tiny world that we live in.
See, he knows him as Fernando also because back in the
Well,
day,
I know.
when
I
we
met him
were in
after
school together.
Yes, I met him after he chose his stage name. Or
Right.
I mean, by this point, they already got renewed for a second season.
Mhm.
And
Right.
funny that you mentioned that one because I know the executive producer of the show. I worked
Oh,
the
nice.
first
Cool.
ever job.
Must be nice.
No, it's not. Because I just see him making cool stuff, and I'm like, I live in an apartment and I can't afford things. But anyways, no, he was actually one of the first guys who was like my boss for a movie I worked on. The first job I ever worked on in LA was called Street Level, and then all of a sudden I just followed him. Like we're friends on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna Tribeca to premiere Cobra Kai, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I guess it's a fucking huge thing, dope, and I'm happy for it. But yeah, it
it
it's
was a lot of
blown
fun
up on
too.
YouTube.
And when
so
do you
none of you guys have seen it, or
I have
Not yet.
Not yet.
I have not.
But
Okay.
I have
or
endlessly
interested,
watched
I
the
should
tra-
say. Yeah.
I am interested. I have just endlessly watched the trailers because I thought they were really well done trailers.
Yeah.
And I've showed it to
It's
everyone.
a very fun ride with just enough nostalgia, but not to like hit you over the head with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's part of
It's
it. I
fun.
need to go
It-
back and watch Karate Kid,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
then I'll probably feel better about.
And when do your guys' episodes drop? What day of the week?
Every Monday. Every
Monday.
Monday.
Monday morning.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But today's topic, let's get into it. I'm
It's
very
very
excited
unique.
about it. It's, as Corey said, it is very unique.
Yeah.
We went,
Well, I like to call these like gush episodes.
yeah.
These are like gush ones where we just it's not like
Oh.
breaking news. It's not like a tentpole thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's more like a free flow nostalgia thing. And this is like the first one that Caitlin gets to be on with us since we've had like our video games are us and we've had our movies are us. And movie adaptations or
I'm especially excited because at the time of recording this, we have just done like the summer movie madness type
Right,
stuff.
yeah.
So our last like 4 or 5 episodes we've
4,000 episodes.
we've
All of
recorded
the
together
ones that I've
were
been
all
on.
movies that have come out. And so I think it's nice to get this change of pace now. So I think I'm especially excited about it.
Yeah.
To kind of gush about something other than that, even though it is technically still movies.
So we are doing movie adaptations of books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a good place to kind of start that conversation is maybe just our thoughts about movie adaptations. Not
Yeah.
specific movies, but just the idea of doing that. And I'm going to flip it over the World Wide Web. And Life's a Binge. What's your guys' initial thoughts?
Why
I'm
are
looking
you-
at
he's-
I'm staring at
Josh-
Caitlin just to confuse
The
her.
whole time he's been winding this up like he's gonna throw it to me while staring at me intently and is like gonna throw it across the web to Life's a Binge.
He does that a lot.
Fantastic.
He does that at the intro sometimes. He'll look at me on his right and he goes, and to my left. And Ollie has to go, Ollie.
That's an athletic move, by the way. I hope you know. That's called faking them out. It's like a little juke. So you can run this way.
It's a nice
Bam.
psych out.
But I'm on your team. Why would
Yeah.
you do it to me?
Because it's the one bad bone in his body. That's,
the team
that's
has
as
to be
evil as
sharp.
Josh gets.
There's one.
It's as evil as he
The
gets.
team has to be sharp. okay?
But Life's a Binge. Let's
Life's a
hear it.
Binge.
So most recently, I ran into this issue that I have with people, and when Ready Player One, when Ready Player One came out, everyone that I know was like, "It's not like the book," bleh. And my big thing is,
You talking to me?
you're allowed to like both. Like they don't have to be one and the same. They don't have to be exactly like the book or whatever. You're allowed to like both. So as far as like the concept goes, I'm all for it because I like the books. And then I'm like, hey, sweet, now I get another version of this. It might not be exact, but bring it on.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more apples and oranges in a way. In the medium, you're never going to be able to fill the kind of detail you can in a book, in a movie, in general. You're going to have to pick and choose what you're going to stress and focus on. But I tell you, in these days of HBO and extended series, I tell you, you can tell a lot of detailed stories, and they do a fantastic job. I never did read the books of Game of Thrones, but I've been told that it's been pretty good as far as like, because generally you're going to lose it in the movie. People are going to say, it's not as good as the book, but
That's like
interesting
2
now,
hours
like,
versus 15 hours.
it's
yeah.
true. Yeah, when you just have a lot longer time to tell a story and to flush it out, it's impressive.
Yeah.
But in a
interesting
movie,
that-
I enjoy. Yeah. So in a movie, I'm thinking like it's not going to be the same no matter what. So you kind of just have to judge them separately. You know, like the Book of the Omen. I'm thinking of the very short list of books, movies that I've seen and read. It wasn't they'd skip this in the movie, but they're separate. So
Yeah.
It's interesting that nowadays, I think it's interesting some of these creative studios are trying to lean into that and purposely change it.
right to make this is the movie experience, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like with Walking Dead, and I think even Game of Thrones to a certain extent.
Well,
Towards the end.
I
Towards
mean,
the end.
specifically, like, so I'm there with you guys in terms of I don't know how to read books, but with Avengers Infinity War, specifically the Russos have gone on record and say like, we're not going to tell you the Infinity Gauntlet story. Like, you already know that. If you're a fan of Marvel, you already know the story of what happens with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. So we're going to do things differently. And they're totally okay. But the weird thing is that it's the name. Like, they call it Infinity, so you think it's going to be the same thing. Civil War is everything but what the comic book was, created by Brian Michael Bendis. So
But it's
a little
not
different.
Civil War. It's Captain
I
America
guess
Civil War.
yeah.
Oh my.
Well, like I think to some extent, like I enjoy the stuff like that, especially with comic book movies because there are different runs of comics all the time. So I'm used to the characters changing slightly here and there, all that kind of stuff. And like you said, like you're not going to be able to carry everything over from the book to the movie because it is a limited amount of time. But then there are movies that use a title simply to sell it and have nothing to do with the book. So I don't know if anyone here has read World War Z
Yes.
and then watched the movie and
Yeah.
gone, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
I signed up for World War Z and this has nothing to do with the book. So as far as like movies based off books with artistic changes and choices and stuff like that, I'm all for it. But don't call something
call it something else.
yeah,
Because you
name
can and you
anything.
can say based on
based
on the
on
book or you know
Yeah, based on not
loosely based.
adapted.
There are
from.
a million other zombie names they could have come up with, but they just chose World War Z and then followed nothing from the book. So at least be slightly true, I guess, to the characters in the story.
I think there to that point though, there's a like the flip. I guess devil's advocate would be like there is a line that you can. There's like a little bit of a gray area, I think, where you can
Twilight.
You can move away. Like
Like
Twilight,
Lord of the Rings.
like my favorite thing to analyze Twilight. No,
Uh-huh.
never seen or heard or read any of that.
Lord of
But-
the Rings, though.
You
Yeah.
uncultured swine.
You can use
You're
that as a
missing out.
reference.
Lord of the Rings is a great example of like, well, even I would say Lord of the Rings is pretty accurate. I mean, there's omissions and there's
Yeah, but they change. They
there's
do change a
structural
lot.
changes.
They do change a lot.
Lots of
Um,
things are missing.
yeah.
Who says
But
what?
as
who
far
goes
as
where.
like it being actually a better example might be Jurassic Park.
Mm.
Yeah.
Even though Michael Crichton was directly involved with the screenplay,
Mhm.
I think that's kind of like capturing this. It's important to capture the spirit and the purpose of the story, and then at that point, I think it's okay to deviate a little bit because, as Tom knows, one of my favorite things to say is that
It's a run.
it's this person's run
Oh,
of that comic or of that
that's new.
Captain America Civil War.
and I totally agree. I just don't want any more movies doing what World War Z did ever again.
Yeah, but I agree with you that World War Z is an example of it not capturing the spirit of the
Yeah.
book.
I like that you brought up Jurassic Park because that's one of the, well, actually, it's not the few instances. Basically, most of the time I end up watching the movie first,
Mhm.
unless it's more recent in my lifetime. But Jurassic Park, I watched the movie and I was like, I love this movie. It's so great. And then I was like, you know what? The book's probably great too. And so I went back and read it and I was like, what is this book? Like it's a basic concept like we were talking about, but it's not the same, but there's enough similarities where it's not like
Yeah,
completely off-putting.
Right.
exactly.
It's not like a false advertisement.
Mhm.
type thing.
Right.
So you read a book.
I read
Yeah.
I read a lot of books.
How is
At
that?
least
This-
I mean, like,
This year alone on my book
Words.
reading list, I'm at 32.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But it's
Wow. Pretty
audiobooks.
good.
So I'm
I think-
cheating.
hey,
It's audiobooks.
let's ask.
I don't
Let's
know
ask
if that
Nerd
is
on.
cheating because you are.
Does that count?
That counts.
Yeah.
As long as it's not
I say that
abridged.
counts.
It's
I
consuming
mean, it's
a
got
book.
book in the name.
It doesn't use the same
Right.
part of the brain, but yeah.
Now, what does abridged mean? I'm sorry if
Well,
I
what's the
sound like an
purpose of the
idiot.
book?
It's the thing
What-
that connects two pieces of land.
Oh God.
I'm upset with you
Wait a
now.
minute. An isthmus? No.
Yes. No, it just means that it essentially has been shortened.
Yeah, it's been shortened.
There's,
Like,
Like,
cut
there's
out
things
the
that they
goods.
found
No, no.
unimportant.
Oh,
that
I
they've
see.
taken
Okay,
out.
abridged. Okay, thank
Like
you.
Dragon
Editing.
Ball Z abridged.
yeah.
It's so funny. It's
not
one of
like
these
that.
things I've seen it a million times, but I'm like, well, I don't really
Well,
know
like
what
Count of
that
Monte
means.
Cristo is one of my favorite books and movies, but there's an
Oh,
abridged
and so when it's
version.
unabridged, yeah, okay.
I mean,
I'm
when
with
it's
you.
unabridged, it's like 1,200 pages, but when it's abridged, it's like 200, and
It's
you're
like
like,
12 pages.
Yeah.
I can handle
right.
that.
It's like if any Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
if there were to be like a abridged Lord of the Rings, they would take out the 17 pages he uses to describe a hill.
That's fair.
Like
That's
we
important.
We get the hill. We get it's a hill. We know what it looks like. Thank you.
But it's
what does
got grass.
JRR stand for? Anybody? Anybody know?
John
just
Ronald
really,
Rule
really Tolkien.
Do you really know? Just really, really token.
Based on his writing style, that's a pretty accurate description.
That's really funny.
I know
That's
it.
funny.
Do you?
Yeah.
What is it?
Hey, it's
John
just-
Ronald Rule Token.
Oh.
Ronald
he's a real
Rule.
fan.
Whoa.
John
come
Ronald
out
ruled
with
them
the
all.
knowledge.
Tolkien. Got it.
Caitlin,
Yes.
what are your thoughts about just the ideology
That's
of
what I want to hear.
movie
About-
adaptations based on books? Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
Give us
Not
your
interesting.
opinion.
It varies because there obviously things like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter are great, but there have also been things like I Am Legend that I was horrendously disappointed in.
Yeah.
Nope.
Did you
Is it
Why?
Omega Man?
Yeah, Omega Man.
What?
They made a movie before called
Called
Omega
Omega
Man.
Man.
That was much truer to the book. I think
Oh.
with Charlton Heston.
I don't know. I just know he had a sniper
That
rifle
was-
most of the time.
Oh.
True to I Am Legend?
Yeah,
Oh.
Truer.
How have I never come across that?
it's
because it's
'Cause
like
you don't
from the
watch
70s.
movies.
from the 70s.
That'd be why.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
I Am Legend come out? The book come out in the 70s?
The book came out. Well, it was like a short. It was a short story. That was amazing, and that came. Oh, when did that come out? That was. A
I'm
long time
googling it
ago.
right now. Continue your thoughts.
But,
though.
Thank you, Corey.
Oh, But Omega Man wasn't based on the same story, or was it? Is that what you're saying?
Omega Man is supposed to be, yes.
Oh,
But-
interesting.
Your thoughts about
About I Am Legend, the Will Smith movie in 2007,
I Am Legend 1954.
54.
The short story.
Yeah, the short story is old.
Oh, okay.
But I loved that story. And then when it was like, I'm Will Smith and I'm going to fight zombies because zombies are real hot right now, it was really upsetting.
You should watch Omega Man. It's really good.
Oh, I'm going to now.
We'll do a
For
movie
sure.
night. It'll be fun.
Yay, popcorn.
And like,
So is that
that's
one
an
of those-
example of them having it? I mean, I'm assuming if it was in the 50s, it wasn't a sci-fi movie.
Well, I mean, it could have been because
it might, but
communism
it might have
still a
been more of
thing.
a like period piece for that time, so that wouldn't have. I mean, that's interesting. Like, I think I would have preferred seeing a period piece, like of like
It is
proper I
marked
Am
as
Legend.
a zombie vampire fiction.
Yeah. It's, do you know the story at all?
I don't.
It's fucking awesome.
Is
like
it?
the whole world is over. And they're like
Game over,
they're
man.
very vague about things, but it's like zombie vampires have taken over, and this one guy's holed up, and they're really vague about what's happening, and he doesn't really know what's happening, and he's trying to solve things, and like
But more importantly, was
From his
Batman vs
perspective.
Superman about to come out?
Jesus.
sorry, I'll gush about that for like way too long, but
No, I'm kidding.
but yeah,
Well, is
I
that
mean,
one of those
that
instances?
sounds similar. In
to Batman versus Superman.
no, to I Am Legend.
to Will Smith's I Am Legend. Well, I think thinking about I Am Legend, the Will Smith one, I think that Caitlin's trying to get to is the fact that it's more action packed, like, and it's not
Yeah.
about like the disorientation of like
It's not
the
about
world
the and the way that society changed to match that.
ending.
Interesting.
Like in the end of it, I think Will Smith finds like another human society.
Well, there's a survivor. She's like, there's a haven. You can go
As
to
there
the
is.
haven.
Yeah, but like in the short story,
It's done.
he
That's
was
it.
the last one.
No
Yeah.
hope.
He was the
That's the point.
monster. He was the legend that still
Oh.
existed because he was the only human left alive.
And the ideology is more about like everyone else is actually normal and I'm the different one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was the one who was going out and killing all these zombie vampire things. It's an amazing story. Came out in 1950, whatever. I'm sorry if I spoiled it for everyone. But
Yeah, spoiler alert.
yeah,
That was
I
on
know
my
that.
list.
But pick up a book.
Reading
Never.
Rainbow.
Reading
Never.
Rainbow.
You'll never catch me.
But so and now I definitely have to watch Omega Man. But some adaptations can be really great for like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Like I
Yeah.
loved those movies. I had like poured my life into those books,
Yeah.
and then seeing it on the screen, even though it doesn't match the picture in my head exactly, it let me like sink deeper into that world in a different way.
Yeah, like
which,
Frodo
which
isn't-
made it amazing.
I like the changes they made though. Like Frodo isn't 60 in the movie.
Yeah.
He's still Elijah Wood. Like,
Yeah, he's still Elijah
Flipper.
Wood.
Yeah, so like little changes like that.
Are we
Like,
gonna
make more
at some point
sense.
go around?
We'll
the
talk
room?
about them, but I want to
Yeah,
still
we-
get everyone's
Yeah.
thought.
I'm sorry, I went off on a little tangent there.
No, because I got because if not,
Woo-hoo.
I got some gushing to do. But I'll.
Ooh, yeah, no.
Thoughts
I'm
first, Josh.
Stop, Josh.
I'm much like Jared when it comes to adaptations. When I hear about them, when I hear that they're going to happen, I'm like, cool. I really love the source material. I'm so down for this.
Yep.
Okay, they changed that. All right, that's fine. This is, as Ollie said, this is a run. This is their version of it. It has the title on it. It still has some of the DNA of the original source. I'm cool with it. All right, sweet. Because how in the fuck are you going to fit 7 fucking books
Yeah.
into movies?
This is McGee's Pride and Prejudice. Who knows?
Mick G's? Mick Please over here.
all of our minds went, huh.
You want to see that, don't you?
I want to see that now.
So I mean, I'm all for them as long as they are at least a little true to it, and it's not like Corey said, where it's like, here's the title, we're gonna do something else.
Here's Jumanji, the sequel, but it's not Jumanji.
Oh my god!
Okay.
How dare you speak ill of
Have you gone and seen
Dwayne
it?
Johnson's work?
Have you watched it?
I've
I
watched all the
liked it.
clips that have to
I
do with
did not.
Jumanji.
I liked it.
The Rock.
Sorry, I watched all the clip
What-
that
tell-
had to do with
Tell
Jumanji.
me again, what movie was that though? That was like in space and it was like a sequel, but it
Oh,
wasn't.
Zathura.
Zathura.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about Jumanji
I gotta
2 that came
Welcome
out
to the
like
Jungle.
Welcome to the Jungle.
I
and-
watched the one clip where they referenced the other Jumanji.
Wasn't it you guys who was telling me about or telling us about Jumanji? No, or something like that, right? Like
No, that's your
and
other
and it wasn't.
podcast.
right.
so salty.
But it was like,
Oh my gosh.
okay.
See, this is why I
It's
don't
so
write a
because I have
script.
the worst memory too. So I'm like, wasn't that you? No, it wasn't you. But someone told me about a Jumanji sequel that wasn't called Jumanji in any way. It was
Yeah.
called something else.
It was-
but it was the
Zora.
same thing.
It was,
and you
it
guys
was the
told us
world
about
of,
that.
yeah, it was a thorough.
It was actually based off the second book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another adaptation. Wow.
Well, I mean,
I didn't
here's-
see that.
Here's the other thing about adaptations. If you really look through movie history, most movies
Yes.
are based on a book. They don't always give it credit, but it's like, oh, that's the story of this. Oh, that's based off this.
Oh, Avatar's Dances with Wolves
With
Fern Gully. you mean.
with Fern Gully.
with penis raptors.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Well, you know the pterodactyls they fly. They like.
That's okay. My turn.
Yeah.
So my thoughts. Thank you, Corey, for that.
Like you
wonderful-
steer away
break
from,
down Avatar,
you steer
though,
away
at some
from penis
point, 'cause
raptors.
It's a
Yeah.
very interesting
Yeah.
conversation.
We
Well,
steer
There was
away.
there was a Tom.
He was
line.
more talking about who I was.
I was
And I was like, hold on, let
channeling-
me talk about myself.
channeling
first.
Tom there for a minute.
So my thoughts about movie adaptations based on books are I like them a lot. To Josh's point, like a lot of them are most movies nowadays. You'd probably say a good share of movies that come out are based on books. There's a reason why the Academy has a part for screenplays based on adaptations.
Mhm.
Like it's part of the art form now.
Yep.
I don't think.
And yet, stuntman don't have Oscars.
Yeah. Still. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about, Corey. So
I'm always going to give a chance to get stuntman a limelight.
They should, and I'll talk about that in another episode. I mean, whenever I hear about a movie that's based on a book that comes out, I'm very like, oh my god, I need to fucking like read that shit if I want to be interested into it because I like being very objective when it comes to it. I like to think that I'm pretty like objective when I see like this is what the book is, this is what the movie is. If I didn't like the movie, then fucking read the book. And if I don't like the book and I like the changes that they made in the movie, I'm like cool, like changes of like time frames, like when they write certain women character in like objectifying ways versus in a movie where they make them an actual human being.
Ready Player
those
One.
That's
are-
always nice.
Those are kind of cool. Or when they
I
make
think that's part of it. It's like it's really interesting to kind of like dive into those differences and see like why did they make creative decisions? Does this
Why
give
does-
me more insights on the original source
why
material?
does
now?
Voldemort have a nose when in the book they said he clearly didn't have a nose? Why does he not have red eyes? He should have had red eyes. But I mean, like those are things that, I mean, I read all the Harry Potter books up until 5 before I watched the movies. And I was like, holy shit, I'm really into it. And then I was like, okay, these movies are being made way too quickly for me to like even try. And I stopped. But I mean, like there's movies like The Watchmen. That was based on the graphic novel. And they took out an entire portion of, it's like a story within the story in the book. Which, I mean, like to
They put
Corey's
it back.
point, in a weird way, Zack Snyder, knowing for making fucking 12-hour long movies, Watchmen was super long and it was very, very close to the actual graphic novel.
Very
Yeah.
close.
And there was one huge change, but there's also like these small little stories that were taken out. Like I would say that the movie almost serves as an abridged version of the book.
Mhm.
And I think those are cool things. And it's kind of like, to Josh's point, it's nice to see like the technology that's being made and then seeing what you love and read be made into what you are seeing now. So you saw it in your mind's eyeball and then now you see it in your real eyeballs.
Yeah, it was
No.
poetic almost.
Yeah. I
Now,
like
what are your
it.
thoughts when they completely like keep it 100% accurate except for the very ending when they're like, well, now we have to Hollywoodize this thing?
I'm
Right.
cool with it.
Guess what? He lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? In DC Rebirth, it's all different anyway, so who gives a shit? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. Like, it's all based on whoever's writing it, right? Like, the writer themselves know, like, if it's going to have a movie deal, the screenwriters are going to change it, the director's going to change it, and then the editor's going to change
I'm
it.
especially okay with it if the writer. I mean, a lot of these times the writers are involved in those kind of decisions.
Like,
Right.
the not Steve Jobs, but the Social Network movie with Aaron Sorkin, like, the entire time Aaron Sorkin's in the writing room saying, like, oh, this, like, in the book, Mark Zuckerberg is drinking a beer. And then Aaron Sorkin wrote that he drinks whiskey on the rocks. And then he's like, oh, it looks better. It's written better. It sounds better. It's going to look better on screen. And Fincher's like, fuck you. Fuck no. It's going to be like this because that's what it is in the book. And that's exactly what it is. I want to tell the real story. It's like, but you're dramatizing things with the numbers and the shares. But who cares? In the end, like, does it tell an entertaining story? And does it get you, like, excited? Like, will I read? I'm going to fucking go read a book.
That's the other facet is that it is, at the end of the day, it is a business.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have to make it mass appeal to a
Yeah.
degree. You know, luckily they're moving away from that appeal a little bit, I think. I don't know.
I think, like, what we were saying at the beginning is that, like, Game of Thrones or, like, shows that are doing adaptations kind of have, like, the best options of having these long form things. We don't know what
Yeah.
Amazon's going to do at this point with the Lord of the Rings,
Right.
but
Yeah.
You have to do what fits best for the media too.
who knows?
That makes me.
Put the pillow over your lap,
Drool.
Caitlin.
My hands are already there.
Put that nerd on away.
Seriously.
I think we're at a point where we could kind of name off like I think one specific like movie adaptation that we hold dear to our hearts. If you have more, then I mean like it's free
Okay.
flow.
Yeah.
Josh,
Cool.
you want to start, bro?
Joshua.
I'm gonna start.
Yeah.
Abraham. The Vampire Slayer?
Man, there are so many because, like
Of
I was
Mice and
saying,
Men
I really like that one.
with Gary Sinise.
Yes,
That is a really good choice, actually.
No, one of my
Super True to the
favorites. One of my favorites, because I happen to read the book as well, is The Count of Monte Cristo. I did really like that movie
It's
that
the
came
sandwich. That's the
Um,
breakfast sandwich.
Yes, there is a breakfast sandwich called the Monte Cristo,
breaded
Took me
and
so
fried.
but
long
it's
to
not
get
that
one.
at
So
all.
They're counting
The Count
breakfast
of Monte
sandwiches.
Cristo,
Yes.
3,
It's a
4,
book about-
4 Monte Cristo.
I have a question.
Yes,
The Count of Monte Cristo movie that you're referring to, is that the Jim Caviezel one?
yes.
Okay, is there any other one other than that?
Yes, there is a Gerard Depardieu
Okay.
from like the early 90s.
La France.
That's like supposed to be more. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, it's a 1,200 page book, and you can't get all of it. There's so many little things that you just
Right.
can't get into the book, and it's like an hour and a half to hour and 45-minute movie. It was okay. Not okay. I mean, I was okay with all of the changes that they made. They just told the base story, but I really, really enjoyed it. But that was kind of an example of something that I have read and have seen the adaptation. I mean, there are a ton of adaptations that I love, like Trainspotting. Trainspotting is an
Oh, yeah.
adaptation, which I fucking love. Trainspotting. But there's so many. Harry Potter is on the top of my list forever.
What do you think
Right.
is probably the common link between like the ones that you're choosing or specific? Because I mean, like if you're saying that there's changes made in the movie and then in the
Mhm.
book, and I'm assuming if there's changes in Trainspotting in the book, I've never read them.
I haven't read Trainspotting.
Okay.
I haven't read Harry Potter. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I read Harry Potter 4 times through. I don't.
There's none.
I don't really.
It's just the movie being made.
It's just the movie being made. There's kind of a magic to it. It's when you find out that one of your favorite books is being made into a movie, you cry
Yeah.
and you pee your pants and you're like, oh my gosh, this is happening, and you won't know what it's going to be until you see it. And because trailers aren't that great nowadays. They can be fun
Or
and whatnot.
credible.
R.I.P.
They're
Ender's
credible.
Game.
Yeah. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, it's kind of like a current. No, maybe I shouldn't mention a current movie.
Okay.
At the time of this recording, Hereditary, you watch the trailer
Mm.
and then you go see it and you're like, that's not what I was expecting. Or Infinity War.
Or A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
Or most of them.
Or
Yeah.
most.
Most of them.
Exactly. Most of them. Yep. So,
Jolly.
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 Oh, yeah.
Jolly.
Jolly
coming.
Oxenfree.
I don't want to take someone else's,
Just do
but
it.
it's
Just
Lord
do
of the
it.
Rings.
Oh, fuck. It's fine. It's fine. That's fine.
What I tell you?
But I'll do this.
Don't do it.
Come back to me. Come back to me.
I'll let you have Lord of the Rings, except the one point that I want to make, which is I think Lord of the Rings was as important for books as Lord of the Rings was, the movie was for film. Like building
The
that
Lord
deep
of the Rings books were important to books as the film was to film.
as the films were
Okay.
to
That's
film.
a really, really interesting statement. I like
And
that.
it's like
I like
it's
it.
interesting because it's not like analyzing one versus the other, but
Mm-mm.
the books created such a immersive world and captures your imagination, and maybe just by product of having to match that. And that's one thing I give Peter Jackson credit for is
Shout
that
out.
he did not cut
Bring
any
that.
corners. You know, he created Hobbiton and all that stuff, and he made it look like it was lived in, and he made
Mhm.
Middle Earth look like it had an ancient, civilization before it, and it
Yeah.
sold you on it, and
Yeah. It's
I
before
wanna
he
give
used
us-
CGI as a crutch.
accomplishment in film. But
I want to give a standing applause to that observation there. Like I
Thank
just
you.
enjoyed that. That's a really interesting observation. And you could be exactly right. I love it. I love it.
Awesome.
It's almost like I want to steal it and take credit for
Easy.
it.
Ollie's
So-
got an
please,
ego
go for it.
problem.
So
What I'm going to do is I'm going to receive that
Oh no.
and let Caitlin have it because
I'll
because I
never
actually
say
have.
well, I was gonna say,
That'll
give me
so
an
now we're
opportunity.
done with the one that you're not gonna talk about. So let's
Right.
talk about the one you're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of fucked up.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have. I don't know if I would have had a time to bring it up, but it's The Lovely Bones. Interestingly enough, also by Peter Jackson. But it was because I was such a huge fan of Peter Jackson. This is before Hobbit, and
Marky Mark.
Yeah.
and I was like, he's doing Lovely Bones. That's really interesting. Like, why is he doing Lovely Bones? I mean, he's done other things like similar in the past, whatever.
Brain dead.
But I picked up the book and I was like, you know what? I'm going to read it. And I love the book by Alice Sebold. Highly recommend it.
Okay.
Now, did you
Super.
read the book before you saw the movie, or you
I
found
did,
out they
yeah,
were
I read
making the
it.
movie? He was okay. Got it.
Exactly. I found out he was making it, and I was like, okay, I got to read this book before I go see it, because I have not read anywhere near as many books as I want to read because I love reading books, which is kind of the ironic thing. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna. This is gonna be one of those few movies that I will have read the book before I go see it. So I made an effort to read it.
You get that
Loved it.
achievement.
Super good movie. The changes I didn't love. Like
Yeah.
it was a bit.
Spoilers.
made it-
What is it? Yeah.
Well, they made it a little more not family friendly, but they made it a little bit safer, which I didn't appreciate. The book is about a little girl that gets kidnapped and other things and killed,
Okay.
and then it's her journey of coming back and kind of seeing what her life is like without her, kind of like how that kind of ripples through her life. And I actually liked Marky Mark. He was fine. But it was the changes to the story that I didn't love. Like it was like they held back on a few things and like some like the ending was a little different and yeah, I didn't love the adaptation
I
as much,
understand that,
which
yeah.
is interesting because I was like, it's Peter Jackson. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for this.
I have nothing against Marky Mark
and it
either.
looked beautiful, but
Except
yeah, that's an
in-
example of like, yeah, he made changes to Lord of the Rings that were, you know, I think appropriate for movies.
Yeah.
Like the structural changes, especially for the third book, because that would not have worked in that structure as a film. But then Lovely Bones being so, you know, one shot story, should be easy to adapt, just didn't sit right for me.
Didn't hit the mark.
Didn't hit the mark.
Key mark.
Marky Mark.
So,
Jesus.
I couldn't help it.
Well done.
But that's my thing.
Turn it over to Life's a Binge. Which one of you guys got in hand?
Well, along that same lines, where I distinctly remember walking through Target, and
Tarjay.
it was days after I saw the trailer for The Martian with Matt Damon.
Best comedy.
And
Ridley Scott.
I was like, this right. And I was like, that looked like a really interesting movie. And then I'm walking through Target and I see like The Martian, now a major motion picture. And I was like, oh, that's a book. So I literally bought the book before I went and saw the movie. The book is phenomenal.
It's so
really
good.
great read. Really great read. And then I went and saw the movie and I was like, hey, they did a good job with that.
Yeah, they did a
kind of
great
changed the ending a little bit, but like it was a really solid adaptation of it. And it brings up one of the points that I wanted to talk about a little bit, where when they have the first person narrative as the book, that's when I'm always like, how are you going to do this as a movie? Like it was a little easier with The Martian because he's making a video log or whatnot. But when you're inside somebody's head for 1,000 pages and then you see them on screen, you're not witnessing their inner dialogue the whole time. So I'm like,
It's a different relationship.
intriguing.
You're not as connected.
Right. You're not as connected. And so that's why I'm always like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work as far as a movie goes. But then you watch it and you're like, oh, yeah, trust the director of photography and trust the director and the actors to convey their emotions and stuff instead of just like having it spelled out for you, you know, so to speak. But so The Martian was just on my mind because of the whole wanting to read it before you saw the movie thing. But it's going back to like the favorite adaptations. I'm going to have to go along the same lines as Josh and pick a Dumas novel and say The Three Musketeers.
Really?
Yeah, he's talking about the Wishbone
Whoa.
episode. I know this one. That's a great adaptation.
Is that a beagle? What kind of dog is that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's Jack
And-
Russell.
Jack Russell.
And it's because it's such great source material
Hold on.
that, yes.
which adaptation? Which Three Musketeers? I know there's been a couple now.
The milk chocolate.
Well, that's the thing. You're right. The one
Oliver
with
Platt.
well, the thing that I'm going to say is like there are so many different iterations of it because the source material is so great that there are countless movies that keep coming out. Same thing with like Robin Hood, where it's like, oh, that's such a good story. Let's make our own version of that. But one of my all-time favorites is the Oliver Platt Disney Three Musketeers. Tim Curry,
nice.
Chris O'Donnell, Charlie Sheen,
Okay.
Kiefer Sutherland. It's. I feel like it's the most not accurate, obviously, because the book's
But it
crazy
captures
different.
that
But
essence.
but yeah, it captures the essence, and it's the fun swashbuckling action adventure movie that you want
And Oliver
with
Platt
just enough
kills it.
comedy and so. But as far as like the source, like I love that they can take that source material and then you can get a movie which wasn't as successful, like The Musketeer.
Mhm.
And do you guys remember that movie?
Yeah.
I remember it happened. I don't remember anything about it.
And so it's like, okay,
blacked
well, good job, good effort on that one.
Way to
They
go,
took
kids.
they took the source material and just kind of made their own thing with it. But when you have such good source material that can span, movies and TV shows and a Mickey Mouse cartoon version, like
Yeah.
there's it's crazy to me. So
Tale
that's
as
one of
old
my
as
favorites.
Time, some might say.
Yeah.
Right. I could say Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, but those are the go-tos. So I thought I'd throw you guys a curveball with the Three Musketeers.
Right on.
Love it.
That's very cool.
So I would have to say that for me, I am 74 years old. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
Happy
But,
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Feeling pretty good. But the movie / book that always comes to mind when I think of that is the movie Failsafe. And mainly just because it was a book that my mom had and she wanted me to read, and I read it, and I saw the movie when it came out with Henry Fonda as the president. And if you're not familiar with the story, if you're familiar with
Please.
Dr. Strangelove, that is kind of based off of Failsafe. It's the story of a kind of a renegade general who kind of loses his mind and attacks Russia, and then the president has to intervene.
Get off my plane.
Not nearly like that.
Sorry, my bad.
No, morally
Wrong
and
president.
in strictly presidential ways, where he has to get on the horn and talk to Russia and talk. And it's really a fascinating story that if you're familiar with Dr. Strangelove, which is a classic Stanley Kubrick
Oh yeah.
black comedy, it's the same. It's essentially the same story where someone has attacked Russia and they have to kind of deal with the consequences of it. But it's really good and it's really dark. And what I loved about the movie version of it is that it sticks with the book, which means at the end of the story, New York and Moscow both get nuked. And it's dark, it's great, and they didn't,
They didn't shy
cut it
away
short.
from it.
Exactly.
'Cause
Yeah,
that's
they
what
went
the
right.
people wanted. They want to see that in real
Well,
life.
or at least like artistically, I'm sure there are a lot of people who were saying that they could have like really like made it a happy ending,
Mm.
but they kept true to the story, and it's a lesson for humanity, and it was great. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it or not, but it's
I
but
have
it's
not,
good stuff.
but-
I have seen Doctor Strangelove a bunch.
Yeah.
So
Well, there you
now,
go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now I
mean,
gotta
so
go
you-
back
you-
one step and see Failsafe.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you'll love it. It's really good. Henry Fonda is really good, and the guy who played Darren on Bewitched plays the translator. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
an
Henry
important part.
Fonda. He's amazing.
Oh, it
Yeah.
looks like Walter Matthau's in it. Larry
Walter
Hagman's
Matthau's
in it.
money in it. Yes, yeah, it's really
So money
really
doesn't even
good.
know it.
Wow.
Okay.
It's so funny. So it's funny. So like movies like The Omen and Jaws and The Deep,
Oh.
like those were all movies that I read the book as a young man and saw the movie.
Poseidon.
But Poseidon, no, that doesn't ring a bell. Not that Poseidon Adventure
I think so. Yeah.
it's Poseidon
Percy
Adventure.
Jackson.
Yeah.
with
I
a
was gonna
boat
say
where the
Percy
boat
Jackson,
turns
the
upside
lightning
down.
It's upside down. Yeah.
Yeah. I
The
didn't
Lightning
never read that
Stealer?
book.
Who said
Oh, yeah.
Percy Jackson?
That's my nephew. That's my nephew's jam. Is
I'm
the
not
is
gonna-
Per- is
I'm
Percy
not gonna raise my
Jackson.
hand for
So,
that.
The newer movies is called Poseidon because they're Hollywood.
That's what it
cool.
was.
but it's the same story of a luxury liner
it's the
turning
same.
upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Caitlin,
Right on.
Oh,
now it's your
man.
turn. You must rise now to the platform.
Do it.
Ollie already said such great things about it.
Well, one up him.
Just say things that you like about
Say
it.
Well-
better things.
Is it failsafe?
Okay.
It's Wishbone, Three Musketeers.
It is Wishbone. I'm sorry. So I mean, I've seen a lot of movies that, wow, English just
It's your
escaped me
baptism.
entirely.
Yeah.
Yes, Lord of the
Mhm.
Rings is my pick, but I also have a very strange connection with Lord of the Rings. The guys in the room know that I have a tattoo on my left ankle of the writing around the ring.
We call it precious.
It is precious to me, obviously.
Yeah.
It's part of my battle.
It goes all the way around your ankle, and it has the same writing as the ring.
Language of Mordor,
Yes.
Black
That's
speech.
Yes.
dope.
So
You need
only
a
shows
photo
up
of that on
around
your
fire.
guys'
it'll
website
go
or
up.
Facebook.
Oh God, I didn't shave. Don't do that right now. But
And a translation, because I don't know what it says. So.
one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them,
one
one
ring
ring
to
to bring them all, and then
darkness
just find them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that.
I got you, girl.
Tattoo is smeared a little bit.
Nerd alert.
I'm stumbling because I'm trying to figure out how to say these words because it's. I
Probably
don't
with
think
your
any
mouth
of you
and vocal
guys
cords.
know this about me, but when the Lord of the Rings movies came out, I was like, when did the first one come out? It was like
2001.
I was in high school.
2001, so I was like 11.
Mm-hmm.
That's when my depression started.
Mm.
And I had a really, really deep connection with Lord of the Rings because that was what I
and
like
Stephen Colbert.
escaped into. Yeah, but I hadn't actually read the books. I'm actually reading them now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was completely reversed for me. I completely delved into Lord of the Rings. Then, like, that's what got me into like LARPing communities because
Nice.
I wanted to like fight like I saw on the screen and stuff.
It's awesome.
I was kind of like you. I saw the first movie, and I was so obsessed with it that, and my dad knew I was going to be. That by the time we got home from the movie, he had my stepmom set up the books on the table. So I came home and all the books were there after seeing the first film.
Oh
and I
my
just
gosh.
like devoured them.
I
But I did it reverse order. I saw the movie
only
and
that
then
it
the books.
happened.
Yeah.
I think my sister actually had the books and had read them all, but she was very possessive of some things. So I was
enough.
like not going to touch
Like
it.
Lord of the Rings.
Like Lord of the Rings.
Precious.
Yes. But so like
Jared does a really good Smeagol, by the way. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
if you guys know
Yes.
that or not,
I
but
did
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
That's good.
Jared,
What?
Jared,
And now we're
the
waiting.
spotlight
do
is on.
your Smeagol.
It's my precious.
Oh,
Where did
That's
Jared,
funny.
where did Jared go?
Exactly. He's not here right
You
now.
got to introduce
real Clark
Andy
Kent
Serkis at the
Superman
beginning of the show.
Right.
but yeah, so I had a really deep connection to the movie and the music and like it was one of those things where like I fell into that world completely for years because the movies were so amazing.
Yep.
And then only in the last like few years, I mean, I got the tattoo when I was like 19. So I was into those movies from the time I was 11 to 19. And
Well, you
then
still are.
I still am. Oh, hardcore.
Yeah, I mean,
But
those movies
now-
made me want to be a storyteller. Like, hands
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so now I'm getting to the books, and it's strange because like all of the things that weren't in the movies are now those things that are
Like
kind of like
Bombadil and stuff like that.
yeah,
Boo.
they're
Tom
becoming like Lord of the Rings is strangely paralleling my life in weird ways.
Oh.
So it's become like a, I mean, not Sauron and
I was
everything.
gonna.
Like
So everyone around is
like-
gonna
Well,
die.
I mean, you did get Mordor speech tattooed on your body, so you're kind of asking for it.
fuck. No, there, like things that happen, realizations for the characters, like journeys that they go through. Those, I've found similarities within the book that I've found strength in for myself. So it's been a really neat thing where like the movies were that kind of, that source of strength for me then. And now the books are kind of like a different kind of strength for me now.
Yeah.
And they're both stories that I've fully immersed in.
It's like
but
it's a
I don't know.
circle.
It's like it's a
As
circle.
if I may make a observation into
Please
why
do.
that might be, and I think the reason it works so well is because he wrote them based on his experiences in World War,
Mhm.
Yeah.
in the Great War or whatever, like being in the trenches, like Brothers in Arms, like all that stuff translated and inspired him into
Fly, you fools.
It was his
Fly You
escapism.
Fools, the Balrog.
He wrote The
Yeah.
Hobbit
Those were all
first.
things that happened
All
to
that
him.
Biting fingers, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going invisible.
No, but I think that's why like there's such a genuine
realism to it almost.
realism story of like genuine connection of like
It's a real story in a
brotherhood.
fantasy world.
Yeah.
yeah.
My favorite quote is about how he came up with an entire Elvis language and then says Evil Mountain names it Mount Doom.
Bad place.
Sounds about right.
For me, mine that I got on my hand that I think it's gonna be a little different for anyone that's listened to us. It's not a comic book, even though I talk a lot about it.
What?
It's gonna be The Great Gatsby.
Oh,
Wow.
Because I was one of those kids that had to read books in school. And
You talking about the Wishbone version?
Nope.
Oh.
I'm talking about actually. So I had to read it, obviously for school and shit like that, like with fucking Pigman, Silas Marner, blah blah blah. But that book, I read the book first, and I was just like, I didn't like reading books that often. I was in accelerated reader programs because I didn't like reading them. I had to get books assigned to me. But I read this book, and I was in high school, and this was like when I got my first love. And then my first heartbreak, and that shit was hard. And
you were like, I just want to throw pretty shirts.
and then I was like, it was autumn. It was autumn winds. And then it's rough. So reading Great Gatsby, to me was like the biggest dude's mopey, sad story. And I super loved it and resonated with it because it was about this guy who literally was holding
Sad
on.
bro is sad.
Yeah, he was just trying to hold on to the past as much as possible, and he can't come to grips with the fact that like his girl's moved on, she has feelings for him, but she's married and that's not happening. But to the point about The Martian, where it's a story about a guy in his first person, it's about Nick Carraway and how he's observing Jay Gatsby. And so it's kind of like you see pain from afar, even though like you live practically on his estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the older version, the Nick Watterson, who's the Robert Redford version.
Mia Farrow.
Yeah, that one, not the Leonardo DiCaprio, Jay-Z bumping
Yeah.
music one.
Toby McCryer.
Although I was like, if there's one person going to play Nick Carraway, it's going to be Toby McGuire. And I loved it because there's a part where he screams, no, when he sees someone die. And I'm just like, that's the only way they could have modernized it with Leonardo DiCaprio being fucking Jay Gatsby. I'm like, come on, this is Jay Gatsby. Leonardo DiCaprio dies in every movie. I'm just saying. And most movies other than like Revenant.
I'll give you that.
He dies in most of his movies.
Which is a surprising one he didn't die in.
Yeah. But I mean, when I saw Great Gatsby, the modern one, the new one, I was like, oh wow, this is like modernized. And then all of a sudden they had like, oh, soundtrack by Jay-Z. I'm like, I didn't need that because this is super period piece.
Yeah.
I mean, credit to that dude. He's a whatever genius you want to call him. But I mean, like Leonardo DiCaprio looks suave as fuck. There's memes about him. There's gifs with that glass and the fireworks behind. But I'm like, they had the money to make this shit look good. I want to see that
And
green
it's
lights.
Baz. I like Baz.
Yeah, Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's mine. That's mine.
Yeah.
Great Gatsby.
Nice.
I mean, just a real quick like shout out. I mean, Harry Potter will always be my
All day,
number
every
one.
day.
All day, every day.
Talk
That's
about
why I
it for a
got a
second.
tattoo.
Talk about it for a
That's
second.
right.
We all have tattoos.
Well,
Well, two of us.
Gryffindor, motherfucker.
I guess what I would say is
Ravenclaw
like,
bitches.
what you said about Lord of the Rings. Me too. The Harry Potter came into my life. I think a friend was like, "Oh, this book came out, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I started reading it, and it just hooked me. And then when the movies came out, it was just. And I'm one of those people that I don't mind the differences. I don't mind that there's
They're
a couple,
minor ones. Yeah.
they're so minor that it's like, but they are such good adaptations, casting wise, everything.
But
Do I
Dobby
miss
gives
Peeves?
him.
Yes, I miss Peeves.
But Dobby gives him the gillyweed. I'm kidding.
Yes. Jesus. But they will always be my number one, always. But we're gonna do an episode
Always?
about that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
always.
I think there'll be a chance at the end after Corey goes, like, where we could just gush about all of them. But
Yeah.
I'll hear Corey.
I have one. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Tom knows what this is going to be already. And it is
Caleb?
Fight Club.
Oh.
For a lot of different reasons. First of all, it's my favorite writer. It's my favorite director directing the movie. And the two of them worked together on the film. So it was like this perfect culmination of like my two worlds colliding all at once. They do take creative liberties with it. So
Yeah.
like, for those of you who have seen Fight Club but haven't read the book, the whole reason that they're, blowing up and setting everyone's credit back to zero is because Marla has breast cancer and she's not approved for like healthcare or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if they set everyone's credit back to zero, they'll have no history of her past and they can get her medical help and stuff like that. So while they didn't include that, and I really wish they had, what they did change as far as the ending goes, Chuck Palahniuk has gone on record, who wrote Fight Club, and said David Fincher fixed my ending, which I thought was really cool. Probably the highest compliment you can
Yeah,
get from
yeah,
a writer
definitely.
about adapting their books.
Right.
But beyond that, I mean, that movie to me, I'm a huge fan of dark comedies. I think
Yeah.
it might be my favorite genre. And to
is.
me, that is almost a perfect dark comedy. The subtle things that you find out with each watch. Like the little things here and there, like, oh, they crashed the car, which he gets out on the driver's side, even though he was on the passenger side. Like little things like that I found over time.
Spoilers.
Have had me fall in love with that movie even more and gone back and read the book 2 or 3 more times.
To this day, I always call any project that I'm working on Project Mayhem.
Yeah. We do not talk about Project Mayhem, sir. But it also was the film that introduced me to, my favorite
Edward
directors
Norton.
and Edward Norton and Brad Pitt and that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, absolutely. It was. And Edward Norton, as Tom knows, has become one of my favorite actors as well. So it's just this, like, it's a really, for me, even though it's this, like, really gritty, dark movie, it is a comfort movie to me. If I'm having a bad day,
great movie.
I'll put it on at fucking 9 a.m. over breakfast and watch Fight Club, and I'll make myself feel better that way. So that's my favorite adaptation.
That's awesome.
Right on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that and I'm gonna use it as my own.
There you go. Totally fine. Totally fine.
I'm sensing a theme here, BJ.
I'm just
He has
minding
no
gold
original
right now.
ideas.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to say you guys are
with
you guys are
just really
great.
good stuff. Yeah.
But also Three Musketeers Wishbone is my favorite.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
It is pretty good.
You should see Wishbones of Mice and Men that never aired.
Yeah.
It's way too dark for kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because instead
see
of a
the
rat, he
rabbits.
actually kills humans.
Yeah.
wait, is that real or you?
No, I'm making that up.
Okay, that just whizzed right over my head.
Look at the
I was
rabbits,
like, oh,
Wishbone.
man.
Look at the rabbits.
Something that that we've developed on the show, I think it is a good chance for us to just gush about some.
Oh, I thought that's what we were doing.
Yeah, I know. I'm just presenting it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
seguing it. I'm ham-fisting.
Seguing.
Seguing.
Well, I want to give a
Seguing.
gushy shout out to The Princess Bride.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you read that book?
Absolutely.
As you wish.
And the book is great. And I love that the fact that in the movie he's reading the book and it makes me happy.
Yeah. Another one of those perfect movies that made some changes.
Absolutely.
I'm
Made
with
some
you. I'm
changes
with
for
you
the
there.
book, but like probably for the better.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's so good. I
It's
love
a movie that
so
I would
much.
be very upset if they did a remake of.
Yeah.
so
I don't think they
upset.
ever should.
Yeah,
They couldn't.
they could.
They
did
will.
Willy Wonka.
They will.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There's so. I mean, there's
That's
so many.
adaptation of a book too.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka.
I will say.
No.
And they're making
Oh,
a
you know
third
what?
one
I
now.
never read. I read Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, but I never read.
How did
Charlie
you
and
read
the
the
Chocolate
sequel
Factory?
but never the original?
I don't know, but that's how it was.
How does that even
And
happen?
I've been like,
it
waiting. I've been waiting my whole life for them to make that.
That's like Josh saying, you know what my favorite book is? The first Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. God,
Yeah.
when Sirius Black gets introduced.
It's so cool.
Right off the bat. They start the whole franchise in the middle of everything. Medias res.
Oh God.
I think a good shout to. I think it's a film
you?
franchise. Yeah, to me, this is a film franchise that's been around for like ever. James Bond.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked it's just specifically in Casino Royale at the very end. They kept.
I
that
could do
one
an episode
line.
on James Bond because I grew up on that.
Yeah.
Love James Bond.
My dad
Which one?
made me.
The old
But
school
which,
one.
but which
Who's
one?
your
Sean
James
Connery?
Bond?
Is Sean Connery your James
Yeah.
Bond?
Right.
Sean
you go.
Connery.
But in Casino Royale, with Daniel Craig at the very end, the line is said, he's talking to M, he's like, "Is the job done?" And he's like, or after he survives and Vesper is gone, there's a very big line that's translated from the book. It's like, "Well, the bitch is dead," and like it was such like a visceral moment because it was that point of like, James Bond is born.
Yep.
Yeah.
The agent is dead. James Bond is born. I was like, it was really really cool.
There's a lot on this list that I did not know.
Like which
were
one?
Based on books.
Well, there's go ahead.
Like Dracula?
No, I knew Dracula.
Bram Stoker's? Shout to Gary Oldman.
Blade Runner. I
Blade
don't know.
Runner?
That was a
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you dream of electric
sheep?
sleep?
Oh,
Sleep.
right. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Suddenly
I
you're
didn't-
Do
Dutch.
androids dream of
but I
electric
genuinely
sheep?
did not know American Psycho, Godfather, LA Confidential.
Yeah.
I like that you wrote Silver Linings on here without the playbook.
We all know what that
But
is.
it almost makes it sound like it's Silver Linings was a playbook. And the movie is based on that.
Oh man.
One
Girl
Flew Over
there's
the Cuckoo's
also-
Nest?
Yeah.
There's also nothing listed on here
excuse
from
me.
Stephen King.
Yeah,
And
right.
Oh, Misery?
like, when you
Yeah.
tell people like, hey, what's your favorite movie? 9 out of 10 people are going to say Shawshank.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a short story, so it's not quite the same, but the fact that we haven't shouted any Stephen King out is kind of.
Well, I was going to.
And I have read the Stand By Me short story that it was based on.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
like that's a yeah.
One in the win column.
Dark Tower.
I actually,
for sure.
I'm a huge
I'd feel
fan
safe.
of Secret Window.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
I was obsessed with that movie for quite some
The
time.
Green Mile. I actually read the book.
Green Mile's the shit.
It was so
I never
good.
read it, but that movie's great. So
I was going to give a shout out to Interview with the Vampire because I read that.
I read that book.
and I
I did
really-
read that book.
I liked it. It's kind of cheesy and awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they changed it to Twilight, I was pissed. No, I'm just kidding. Well, Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump was a book. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
See, that's one of those I want to read because I love that movie so much, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to kind
Yeah,
of
I
read
haven't
that
read it
one.
either. I do want to give a shout out to specifically the Swedish Girl with the Dragon Tattoo films.
Oh, yeah.
I know I said Fincher's my favorite director, and he did the American versions, but those Swedish ones are perfect.
Dark.
They
I
are
love them. Yeah,
but they're
I love them.
super true to the books.
Dark as fuck.
And it looks like they're continuing without him anyway. So,
Yeah.
Schindler's List. There's another one.
oh, Schindler's List.
Never read it.
Never read-
Jaunty romp through the Holocaust.
That's what you want to
Good
call
times.
it?
It's kind of like
I
when
mean,
we
you
look
also
at
have all
like
the
Chris
Hunger
Hemsworth
Games.
and we go, oh, poor ugly man.
Yeah, what a sad
What a sad,
life he must
sad.
have.
Yeah.
Hunger Games, I know were some of
Hunger
my my wife's actual favorite adaptations from until they got to the third movie. And then
Yeah.
she was like, no. No.
Oh.
I
Oh my
didn't like
God.
that one bit.
I just realized I read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies,
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, I
zombies,
read that.
right?
but I had never read the original. So when I watched the movie to find out what it actually was.
There you go.
Mm.
And
Nice.
that's what it was, the Keira Knightley. I think
Yeah.
that was the one.
Yeah.
But I
You
really
had to go
liked
do
it.
your
With James
book report,
McAvoy.
so you watched the movie.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
And your teacher was like, there are no zombies
That's
in
not
this.
in the book.
Yeah, I was surprised because she like cuts off someone's head.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
definitely not supposed to.
Did not see that
Did we
coming.
already say the hatchet?
Oh my God.
You mentioned that very
Just
long ago, my friend. Well, it's
We're
funny
all just
because
going-
you mentioned that Fight Club's one of your comfort movies,
Yeah.
and on the list is Silence of the Lambs, and my wife loves that movie.
I love
Times.
that movie.
She puts it on to fall asleep to, and I'm like,
That's
I
dark.
love you so much.
I
Like
lo-
my
I love the
wife
whole
is the
franchise.
best.
That's awesome.
The
Yeah.
TV show is one of the
My wife
most
watches
enjoyable
Friends.
TV shows that I've
Is
seen in
it?
a while. It
That-
is.
Hannibal?
It's so well
God, I
done.
want to hear more about that because I'd never watched it, but I've kind of heard good things.
Mads Mikkelsen
I-
kills it as Hannibal.
Yeah.
Huh.
It is like
I'm
it
just
is
glad
like
that
the
they-
most artistic interpretation imaginable for Hannibal, and it's so well
Really?
produced.
Well, and I'm glad
Uh,
they got to end it because all the
Yeah.
cancellation rumors and
Now-
stuff. I was
Yes.
like, God, you just have to get to
They
the
got
end.
to
Do you
they got to
know-
end it.
Shout out to
Do
Brian
you know
Cox.
if that's streaming somewhere?
You know what? That's a great question. I don't think it is.
I don't
Damn.
think it is either.
No.
Well,
But there's only 3
Definitely seek it
seasons,
out.
and the DVDs are.
I'm losing my
inexpensive.
nerd on right now.
Corey is
Corey, there's a big
exploding.
shout out that I can't believe I fucking forgot.
Pinocchio.
Yes,
Okay.
Wishbone's Pinocchio. No.
I'm talking about Jonathan Taylor Thomas,
no,
baby.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
One of my favorites of all time. I actually did the Lord of the Rings trick where I saw the movie first and then read the book afterwards.
Mm.
And I can say they are different. They're very like a lot of big changes, but I love them both equally for what they are.
Mhm.
Like the movie to me is one of the most fun and unique movies that I've seen in a long time. And it's one of those ones that if it is on somewhere, I will just watch the whole thing.
It's
I will
funny
not
because I
skip
feel
to
like,
it.
ironically enough, like based on what the book is, like I find the movie like really complementary to
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
almost like it's almost like you need both to be complete.
A little
Sam
bit of that, like,
Rockwell's-
salt garnish on the plate.
Sam Rockwell is so good in
Sam
it.
Rockwell.
He's so
Sam
good.
Rockwell is good in
So is,
everything.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Alan-
explain it to me, man.
And
That's
of course,
my
Alan
boyfriend
Rickman, rest in
crush.
peace.
Your man crush?
My man crush, yeah. My wife said I get one man crush, and that's the one.
That's it?
Yeah.
You
Just
only get
one?
one?
No,
Zoe Deschanel
no.
day for day.
But she's the that's
Timothy
the one.
Oliphant.
That's
and
the
who
one that
else?
whenever she sees, she goes, "There's your boyfriend." That's the one that she acknowledges. I
Oh,
guess that
okay.
she knows of.
So she's okay with
I
that
have a
one.
long list.
Yeah, I have a really long man crush list too.
She's more than
Me
okay with it.
too.
Thomas
We're supposed to
Middleditch,
be
call
gushing
me.
Go on.
about movie adaptation.
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
was also
very-
going to say shout out
sorry.
to Shakespeare. Anything that's
Shakespeare. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on.
Romeo
Shakespeare.
plus Juliet.
Hold on now, wait.
Do we need? Yeah. Does
Hold
it count? Because I'll
'Cause
talk about some
I-
Shakespeare.
because I read, you had to read for school and shit. I did not like Romeo plus Juliet because, and some people will say like it's great because it's such a.
You're talking about the movie, right?
The one where he says, "Grab my longsword," and he grabs a shotgun from like his limo,
so
and
good.
I'm like, I immediately when I saw it, like I had such like a, like I didn't like it, but then again, that's just me. I didn't like it. Doesn't mean it's bad.
You gotta watch
I'll
it
give
now.
it its merits and stuff like that. But for me,
I agree with you back then. Because
maybe I should watch it with
because
like
also like
adult
like
eyeballs.
the age that I was
Take
in
those
with
rose-tinted
the
glasses
people
on.
that were watching it, they were kind of like angsty and like it was cool to like the movie, and I hated that aspect, the like social aspect of it. But like now, like watching it after college, after reading Shakespeare, after like seeing like good Shakespeare movies,
And seeing
going
some
back to
stage
Romeo
shows.
plus Juliet, seeing some stage shows,
Shakespeare.
it's a fun movie, dude.
It's a great adaptation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. At
And it's
first, I
Baz.
didn't like it.
Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I want to
Mr.
go.
Gatsby himself.
The only reason I want to go into it again is probably John Leguizamo.
That's
He's
the
amazing.
perfect reason to go into it.
He's a great reason to go into it.
So I'm like, I'll probably.
But everyone's
watch
really
it.
great. The guy who plays the priest is your favorite guy from Jurassic Park 3.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal. He's a Shakespearean stage actor. So they got him as the priest.
Is
He's
Claire
great.
Danes not one of your favorite days, or is that something?
She can be. I could just put her in.
She can be, he said.
She could be.
Wow, so no is
he'll
the
allow
answer.
it.
Inducted into it. I'm okay
I know
with
she
it.
can be. Even for me, she can be a little off-putting in her show.
I like on putting.
Homeland?
I watch Homeland, and she's still a bae, but
Yeah.
she has this lip quiver thing when she cries.
Hey, that's what I do.
You mean
I
every second of that show?
love
Yeah.
You mean
Homeland.
the fava beans from Silence of the Lambs?
My mom called it boo boo lip.
Boo boo lip.
Because that's
I
what
like
the
that.
lip thing that a
Yeah.
kid gets when they get a boo boo.
But here's the thing: it's so bad that we're talking about it right
Yeah.
Oh my
now. Many
God.
people know. It's not one of those. I wonder if I'm the only one that notices that. Oh, you
No,
are. Okay,
Boo boo.
not that bad.
For another short story, I think one that I've talked about a lot is, and I haven't read it, but I mean the movie I liked, Arrival, Amy Adams, and
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Never saw that.
I liked it a lot. Jeremy Renner, I believe.
Can I
did enjoy that movie.
Can I ask one question?
No.
To wrap it
Probably.
up, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an answer, that's totally fine. But what is a book or short story that has not been adapted that you'd like to see?
Oh.
Get out of my head.
And then we'll.
I was gonna ask that.
Because I think it's been in talks to be a movie, a TV show over the past like 5 or 6 years, and yet there's no solid proof of anything. But there was this one short
Solarium.
story from Scary Stories for Kids about
Oh, yeah.
Harold the Scarecrow.
Well, Guillermo now has the rights to do all scary stories.
And I hope he does it because that specific story
I
about the
remember
Scarecrow
those.
coming to life
Yeah.
and like skinning one of the guys and drying his skin
Oh.
out and like, I would love to see that.
I remember Bloody Fingers.
Yeah,
I
would-
remember those scary stories. They were
the art.
terrifying.
If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, if you look up Scary Stories for Kids book and you just Google search the images, they will give you nightmares for weeks.
just the images.
Even as an adult, I've gone back to look at them and gone, "Oh fuck!"
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
That's what it is. That's what
Shaun
it
of
is.
the
That's what it is.
Dead
Yeah, yeah.
scared me, so probably
Wow.
not.
Yeah,
For me.
Scary Stories to tell in the dark. There's 3 books.
yeah.
Any
They're-
of them. Make any of them. I don't care. Guillermo
Yeah.
has it. You said
Guillermo has
that
the rights
is the
to
right
it.
person to have it.
And
Yeah.
he's been wanting to do it for like a really long time, but I think it's just a matter of like greenlighting because he can't get shit greenlit for some reason.
But
Yeah.
that's my vote for story that hasn't been made yet. Anyone else can jump in. Yeah, Josh.
I have one. Anything by Christopher Moore, and I know that
That's
all
your
of-
boy.
he is my boy.
It's comedy, right?
He's It's sardonic
Dark
comedy.
comedy.
It's dark comedy.
I
It's
just realized
amazing.
mine, sorry.
I realized that I think he has said that all of his books have been optioned, but it's Hollywood, and so
Yeah.
I want Dirty Jobs to be the book
Oh
right
my
now.
God, yes, they were talking about doing a series of that.
You
I was
guys
at-
in your history.
I was at a reading.
Nerds.
I was at a signing and a reading of his a couple months ago, and he said that there is talks of a TV show for Dirty Jobs.
I mean, it's a concept that's been around, Go Be Death or whatever, but like the way he tells that story is just so fantastic.
Yeah,
Could they call it Dirty Jobs though?
it is called Dirty
Because of
Jobs.
Micro.
With Mike Rowe.
Would they have to name the TV show something else? Just saying.
Anyways.
Maybe
How about Life?
Love Dirty
it has a
Jobs,
long.
Micro.
It has a kind of a longer. But anyway,
How about you guys, Life's a Binge?
What was the question?
Wow.
Oh,
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, I was trying to like live stream at the same time on our Facebook page, and I was getting distracted.
It
with
was just
book-
what is a book or a story that you would like to see?
Okay, yes, that's right, and that would mean that there was something that I've read that hasn't been made into a movie yet.
Correct.
And so I'm not the one to ask.
So a milk carton.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make it a dark comedy. It'll be one of the kids.
No, that's a really tough question because there are so many things that are actually out there, and all the things that are that I loved from my childhood.
There's some like
already
agent
exist.
Yeah, that's looking into it as a money making proposition. Like, oh, we could take that story and make it into a movie. So generally, I'm going to see that movie before I read the book.
Gotcha.
So I don't have a whole lot.
Totally cool.
I'm
If you don't
sorry
have
to
an
say.
answer for it.
Yeah, I don't.
Now, can I choose something that has been made, but I want a better version of?
Sure,
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that. You don't have the
Willy
show that's
Wonka?
made yet.
Because I'm a huge Michael Crichton fan, and one of the first like bigger novels I remember reading as a kid was his book Timeline, and I was like, this would make
Oh.
such a good story to see. And then they made this horrific
feel ya.
thing starring Paul Walker, and I was like, what is this thing that they
Oh
call
my God,
Timeline?
yeah.
What is this pile of garbage I have
I didn't know
watched?
that was a Michael Crichton book.
And I love that book because, you know, medieval times and the King Arthur story and all that stuff is like, I love that kind of aspect of the story. And I could envision how it could be. And then I watched the movie and it was like, no. I'll just read the book again.
I'll go back to my safe place.
Ollie
Yeah.
Ollie Oxenfree.
Yeah, mine. Well, I'm gonna twist it up just because a lot of the books that I've read have already become movies. And I can't really think of
Oh, geez,
anything.
so cool.
But I've always thought that I would love to see this book become a video game.
The Hobbit.
No,
I would play that though.
It doesn't exist.
No, like a good game.
Mary
okay, that's
Shelley's
fair.
Frankenstein.
Oh.
I want to
There
see
we
that
go.
done as a really interesting, like dark,
Well, they're
gritty,
They're
slow-paced game where you take the role as Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
And
Can we also give a
and you
shout
just
out?
get, you just get misunderstood and people kill you.
yeah,
Since this is about adaptations, can we just also give a really quick shout out to Young Frankenstein for adapting
Yes.
Frankenstein into
Absolutely.
a horror comedy?
Yeah.
Cool. Just wanted to shout that out. But I love that. I would love to play like a
Yeah.
Frankenstein video game.
Caitlin, you have a big smile on your face. So you're going
Because
next.
I was
Prepared.
I was gonna say that the one that I wanted to see adapted was the series The Ranger's Apprentice by John Flanagan, and I was looking it up
And it already
to
is.
get his name, and
It's
they're
being
like,
made?
"Oh, it's in production."
wow.
Congratulations.
I'm so
There you
excited
go.
right now. But I'm afraid of what it's gonna be because it's a fantasy world. It's
Yeah.
like follows the life of this orphan. It's like a 12-book series, and it's definitely for kids. But I'm a child in my mind,
That's
so
okay.
uh,
There's like The Lost Years of Merlin is the other one I've always wanted. It's a children's series books of when Merlin becomes Merlin that I've always wanted to see, but I never tell people that. 'cause
Did
it's
you
all
watch
kids'
the
books.
show Merlin from the UK?
BB.
Oh, that was a good one.
The baby.
with
I forget
It's
his
a
name.
BBC
Sam
show.
Neill from way back when?
That's the
no,
miniseries,
there
and
was-
no, she's
that-
not talking about
I was like, because that's the only one I've seen.
Literally, the only name that I remember is John Hart was the dragon.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I didn't see it.
It was a BBC
It's
show.
the story
it was,
of
it was
like
great.
Merlin
I
becoming
saw the one with
Merlin.
Martin Short, Sam Neill, Helena
Oh.
Bonham Carter.
I love.
Not that one.
I really like that one. So
I just love Sam Neill.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're talking about, then yes, I've seen it and I love it.
Oh,
That's great.
Corey.
I do have one, by the way. I'm
Oh.
sorry to interrupt. Charlie and the Chocolate Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. That's the one I want to see
There
made
you
into a
go.
movie.
Finally.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned it earlier, but I was like, oh, there is something that I've read that I want to see made into a movie. So that's the one.
There it is.
So sorry,
Full
go ahead.
circle.
With Gene
Yep.
Wilder.
Yep.
But yeah,
Aw.
R.I.P.
Oh,
Corey?
yeah.
I already,
Some
I
news
already
for you,
said
though.
mine.
You already said yours?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
short stories. It's
Oh.
Tell in the dark.
Didn't
What's the
listen.
question? I'm kidding. So for me, I am going to stick true to form and make it a comic book one. I would like to see Kingdom Come, which is a great novel from DC. Most
Batman?
notably for Alex Ross's artwork for like hyper realistic
cheating.
DC characters. What do you mean? Is it cheating?
we're bringing comic books into this. It's
Hey.
gonna go off
Yeah,
another
give me a
hour.
Nightwing movie. Come on, like.
Well, I mean, like this is a specific.
Give me a good
This
flash.
is a specific story. This is Kingdom Come. This is supposed to be like an off-world story where heroes are done.
Yeah.
And like and
Or
like
a real Justice League movie.
all the children
You're
of
opening
heroes and
floodgates
villains
now.
are now destroying everything. But it's supposed to be like
That's
kind
a
of.
whole nother episode, Tom.
Yeah.
We'll get
Yeah.
to reading.
No, not about Kingdom
That
Come.
sounds
About
interesting. though. Kingdom
what you're
Come.
bringing up now.
Yeah.
It's dope. I recommend. 10 out of 10. Yes. It's
Well,
the
yeah.
best.
We rate 5 stars, Tom.
10 out of 5.
Quoting Tom on it, 10 out of 10.
That's how good it is.
Yes.
Yes. That's the best.
You can
Wow.
quote him on it.
Kingdom Come is best.
I feel complete.
I feel complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
feel-
complete.
yeah.
Does
I'm
everybody feel
feeling
complete?
Pretty complete, yeah.
I
Yeah.
Dang complete.
Especially now that I get my movie.
Yeah.
Shout
Oh,
out
yeah.
to Wizard of Oz real
So
quick.
exciting.
Shout out to the
Okay,
Wizard of
yeah,
Oz
yeah.
real quick.
Wizard of Oz, yes.
Shout out to Twitches.
Odd Oz.
But not
Well,
Tin Man.
Life's a Binge, aka
Yeah.
Jared and BJ. Where can
Hey.
our audience go to find you?
You can find us on all social media at Life's a Binge. Particularly, we've been really active on our Instagram, so check us out there. But Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all Life's a Binge. Patreon.com/Life's a Binge. And if all
Facebook.
else fails, Facebook or lifesabinge.com.
Dope.
Awesome. Everybody at home, well, Life's a Binge, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nerd
Thanks
On.
for
This was
having
super
us.
fun.
Man.
Absolutely.
You guys are awesome, and I love you,
Yeah.
and you guys are great.
Aw,
Yeah.
we love you
We're
too.
lucky and we're blessed to be able to do this. It's great.
Everyone
Appreciate
at
it.
home.
Nerd on a binge.
Yeah,
Nerd on
there
a
we go.
binge.
Everyone at home, I'm not wearing hockey
Oh
pads.
my
Oh.
god.
Okay, no. I was gonna say, like, when you're like, I feel complete, and I was like, I don't yet.
That means I did it right.
That's the way it goes.
You let him win every
Yeah.
time you say it.
Josh, go ahead and take it from there.
I was just going to say, everybody at home, thank you so much for listening. It's because of our listeners that we're able to keep doing this.
Without you.
We love
Your
you.
continued support is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, if you want to know more about the show, if you are new to the show, if you're coming over from the Life's a Binge audience and checking it out for your boys over at LAB,
And
huh?
Boys and girls.
Boys at Life's
no,
a
say what you're
Binge.
gonna say.
Boys at Life's a Binge is what he said. LAB.
Right. That's what she said.
oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
You want to
yeah.
join them? You want to leave us?
You're gonna leave us for Life's a Binge?
Guys, I
Caleb?
didn't want to tell you, but
That's all right.
I've already signed the contracts.
Oh, got
I'm
it.
moving over.
This is why I say
Your
90
seat,
days
your
before.
seat is ready.
Oh,
Yes.
This is really
I
awkward.
think I saw this once in an episode of Wishbone.
Well, you're not leaving. You're fired. Done.
Dramatic ending of Nerd On.
So what I was going to say is you can head on over to our website, nerdonthepodcast.com. That has all of our individual socials. It has the show's socials. We've got,
Social security numbers?
Yes.
yes,
Yep.
we did put that on there. That's a new option.
Yes.
It's got articles. We've got our podcast episodes. We've got links to our YouTube, which we're producing a whole bunch of video content, and we're streaming video games on Twitch. So whole bunch of stuff, nerdonthepodcast.com. But you know the drill. As always,
Nerd on.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.